All right, I'll start with my prayers. Hare Krishna, devotees. Welcome to the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. I will start with the invocation, Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyodapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्ता वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमा ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी नीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Okay, Hare Krishna. So I will share my screen. We will be reading the third canto, chapter 27, verse number 23. I will read the Sanskrit, followed by the synonyms, word-to-word meanings, translation, and then purport. Prakriti purushasyeha dahyamana ahar nisham tiro bhavitri shanakair agneryonir iva raniha. Prakriti purushasyeha dahyamana ahar nisham tiro bhavitri shanakair agneryonir iva raniha. Synonyms or the word-to-word meanings. Prakriti, the influence of material nature. Purushasya, of the living entity. Iha, here. Dahya, mana, being consumed. Tu, but. Aha, nisham, day and night. Tira, bhavitri, disappearing. Shanakai, gradually. Agne, of fire. Yoni, the cause of appearance. Eva, as. Arani, wooden sticks. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks, when which cause a fire, are themselves consumed by it. Purport. Fire is conserved in wooden sticks, and when circumstances are favorable, the fire is ignited. But the wooden sticks, which are the cause of the fire, are also consumed by the fire if it is properly dealt with. Similarly, the living entity's conditional life of material existence is due to his desire to lord it over material nature, and due to his envy of the Supreme Lord. Thus, his main diseases are that he wants to be one with the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become the Lord of material nature. The karmis try to utilize the resources of material nature and thus become its Lord and enjoy sense gratification. And the Gyanis, the salvationists, who have become frustrated in enjoying the material resources, want to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or merge into the impersonal effulgence. These two diseases are due to material contamination. Material contamination can be consumed by devotional service because in devotional service, these two diseases, namely the desire to lord it over material nature and the desire to become one with the Supreme Lord, are absent. Therefore, the cause of material existence is at once consumed by the careful discharge of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. A devotee in full Krishna consciousness appears superficially to be a great karmi, always working, but the inner significance of the devotee's activities is that they are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. This is called bhakti or devotional service. Arjuna was apparently a fighter, but when by his fighting he satisfied the senses of Lord Krishna, he became a devotee. Since a devotee also engages in philosophical research to understand the Supreme Person as he is, his activities may thus appear to be like those of a mental speculator. But actually, he is trying to understand the spiritual nature and transcendental activities. Thus, although the tendency for philosophical speculation exists, the material effects of fruitive activities and empiric speculation do not, because this activity is meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I will read the last portion once again in this purport. Since a devotee also engages in philosophical research to understand the Person as he is, his activities may thus appear to be like those of a mental speculator, but actually he is trying to understand the spiritual nature and transcendental activities. Thus, although the tendency for philosophical speculation exists, the material effects of fruitive activities and empiric speculation do not, because this activity is meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Okay, so today we are discussing or reading the third canto, chapter 27, verse number 23, and the title of this chapter is Understanding Material Nature. And the context is that Kapila Dev or Kapila Muni is speaking to his mother Devahuti. She is asking different questions, and her primary question, a few verses back, as I remember, is that she is asking, "How can I get liberated?" Or rather, her question was that the material nature being so powerful and everyone in its clutches for time immemorial, anadi, how is it possible to get out of the clutches of material nature? So that was our question, and Kapila Muni immediately answers that by practicing Tivra Bhakti, meaning by practicing very serious devotional service, one can get out of the clutches of material nature. So Srila Prabhupada has actually brought up a lot of points in the purport. We will discuss these points. I will again share my screen. This is, by the way, this is same as what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 14 in Bhagavad Gita is the material nature, the three modes of material nature. And he explains the material nature in this chapter. And finally, he gives the solution to get out of the clutches of the material nature also. And the solution he gives is in text number 26. He says that Mam cha avyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So this is also direct bhakti. We say that we are practicing bhakti yoga, and sometimes some people ask, like, is this word bhakti yoga mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita? And we can refer to this verse, bhakti yogena sevate. Very clearly, it's mentioned. And mam chayo avyabhicharena. So without fail and unflinching devotional service to Krishna results in uh, coming to the level of Brahman. Brahman means spirit. Coming to the level of, we are materially conscious currently, or to some degree, or to different degrees, we are materially conscious. And when we practice devotional service, we come to the level of Brahman, means that we come to the spiritual platform. So he says that at once transcends the modes of material nature, meaning they overcome the material nature. So um, to the degree that we execute devotional service, and devotional service cannot be just artificial. It starts with artificial. It starts with rules and regulations and do's, don'ts, uh, the four regulative principles, chanting Hare Krishna, a fixed number of rounds. But that is a practice, and slowly and gradually we come to a point where it is spontaneous, it is natural. Because it is natural within us, it we have to take it out. And when, to the degree that it happens, to that same degree, we transcend the mode of material nature and come to the spiritual platform. And if someone says that, okay, you come to the level of Brahman, meaning you become Brahman realized, you're not talking about Krishna consciousness, then the very next verse Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that, and I am the basis of that impersonal Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So uh, we may come to the spiritual platform, and it's the beginning. But he says that Krishna is the basis of impersonal Brahman. He is the supreme Brahman. So that that proves that it also becomes Krishna conscious. Now coming back to this today's verse and the purport, so a very significant point that is covered in this verse is that the how does a fire start? A fire, let me quickly read this. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed. So Srila Prabhupada, in the very first few sentences, he writes, fire is conserved in wooden sticks, and when circumstances are favorable, the fire is ignited. But the wooden sticks, which are the causes of the fire, are also consumed by the fire if it is properly dealt with. So fire, wooden wood is the cause of the fire, but then fire ends up consuming the wood. There is no trace of wood remaining. So, how do we understand this? Similarly, the living entity's conditioned life of material existence is due to his desire to lord it over material nature and due to his envy of Supreme Lord. So, he gives two causes here, Srila Prabhupada, that there are two causes of us being here. And those two causes are the desire to lord it over the material existence, and the second is the envy of the Supreme Lord. Now, these two are the causes of our material existence, but when devotional service is within us by naturally, just like the fire is within the wood, but when fire takes place, it consumes, it destroys the wood also. So similarly, devotional service is within us, but and when it is ignited, when devotional service is ignited, it will end up consuming or destroying these two tendencies. The first one is to desire uh, for lording it over the material nature, and second is to the enviness of the Supreme Lord. And that's very significant to understand that just by cultivating or executing devotional service, it will consume these two tendencies, these two diseases, like Srila Prabhupada talks about, that these two are the diseases because of which we are in this material world. And the details are also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not able to quote, but it is mentioned that when the devotional service is executed seriously, at some point, the mind, the material mind, is destroyed. It is dissolved, and that's when we get into the spiritual world, the liberation, the liberated stage. So that is the details the how these two diseases are finished: the desire to lord it over the material nature and the enviness. Because ultimately, it is the mind which is taking us through all these different lives and different existence, different desires, everything. Then Srila Prabhupada, he goes on to talk about the karmis trying to utilize the resources of material nature and thus become its lord. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he already says that mama maya duratyaya, meaning that this maya, this material nature is mine, and it is duratya. I mean, it causes trouble to the living entity, to everyone who is within the clutches of Maya. So it is Lord's energy. But when we try to lord it over that energy, indirectly, we are trying to lord it over the Supreme Lord. That's how I understand. And that is also the enviness towards the Supreme Lord. The karmis try to utilize the resources of material nature and thus become its lord and enjoy sense gratification. And the gyanis or the salvationists who have become frustrated in enjoying material resources. So then the karmis are trying to utilize material resources for their own enjoyment or trying to lord it over the material nature. And the gyanis, they are not trying to lord it over the material nature. In fact, they are trying to get rid of the material nature. And their philosophy is neti neti, meaning negate everything. This material nature is the cause of my suffering. The relationships are the cause of my suffering. My existence is the cause of my suffering. So let me finish all these. So gradually, step by step, they go towards finishing these different things. So that is the salvationist or the Gyanis path. So they are trying to become one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or merge into the impersonal effulgence, because they think that by negating all these things, they will okay, they they will be able to finish their existence, or rather they will be able to, because everything is Brahman. The Brahman exists outside the spiritual, the material world. Brahman is inside the spiritual world, inside the material world also. It is everywhere. Brahman is everywhere. Without Brahman, without the spirit, without the spiritual energy, nothing can be sustained. So they are saying that, or they have the understanding that by because I am contaminated by material nature, I am separate from Brahman. And if I am, if I remove the material nature equation from that, then I will become one with Brahman, meaning that I will become spirit and I'll merge into the Brahman. That's their understanding. So what Prabhupada is talking about is that therefore the cause of material existence is at once consumed by the careful discharge. Okay. Material contamination can be consumed by devotional service, because in devotional service these two diseases, namely the desire to lord it over material nature and the desire to become one with Supreme Lord, are absent. Okay, so devotional service is a higher platform because it is serving the Supreme Lord who is para Brahman, or who is completely spiritual in nature. One second, let me just reply to my team. They are constantly pinging me. Okay, so when we are trying to serve the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Brahman, at a completely spiritual platform, there is nothing material about it. So that disease is gone. We are no longer engaged in the material world, in the material uh, s- engagement. And the second, to become one with Brahman, we want to be with the Parabrahman. We want to be with Krishna, along with Krishna. So there is no concept of merging into the Brahman, no concept of uh, instead of neti negating, we have the positive there, that I want to exist, but with the Lord in my spiritual body, in my spiritual form. So both these diseases are absent, and therefore devotional service is superior to the other yoga paths. And then in the last purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about devotee in full Krishna consciousness appears superficially to be a great karmi. Okay, so now he is talking about the two concepts, that we see that a karmi also goes to the market and buys nice vegetables, fruits. A devotee also in Krishna consciousness also goes to the market, buys fruits, vegetables. They are both looking for nice and good quality vegetables and fruits, putting them in their basket and then purchasing. So how do you say that one is he's also engaged in material world? But what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that it is the uh, yukta vairagya, meaning he in his there is a consciousness and then there is a subconsciousness. At a conscious level, he is looking at the vegetables, making sure, but at a subconscious level, there is always doing everything for the Lord, or doing it for Krishna. At a subconscious level, uh, this vegetables, fruits will be prepared so that I can offer it to the Lord, and then I will take it so that I can, because I am in this material world, because I have been engaged in my karma, let me execute my karma properly so that I can satisfy Krishna, I can satisfy the Lord. That is the at a subconscious level. So at a devotee is doing everything for as a devotional service, whereas a karmi even though superficially the activities look same, they are doing it for themselves. They will even like immediately taste it or do it, which we generally avoid while cooking. So that all these things are pointing towards the consciousness of the person. So karmis will, while cooking, they will taste the food and do. So it's for their own enjoyment. Now, the second point about the philosophical research also, Prabhupada is talking about it, that we also go into the details of Bhagavad Gita, we go into the details of Srimad Bhagavatam, we try to understand how everything is working. We may also even go into, Prabhupada has quoted so many points from Upanishads and Vedas. So it may feel or seem like we are also Gyanis, or we are also, as he calls, he uses the word salvationists. So Gyanis or salvationists. But he says that it is not so, because Krishna wants us to execute devotional service with a proper understanding. And Prabhupada would also always say, don't just read my books, my purports, everything that I have written in a sentimental or in an emotional way. Try to critically understand, critically question. That's why we have this guru parampara. So that's why we have living gurus, where we can ask questions, we can serve them, we can get doubts clarified and holistically understand. So we also try to understand philosophically, but it is like Srila Prabhupada is talking about here. His activities may thus appear to be like those of a mental speculator, but actually he's trying to understand the spiritual nature and transcendental activities. So we don't just limit ourselves to the philosophy. When jnana is mentioned, it is mainly related to the reading and understanding of the Upanishads and the Vedas. But we read Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also full of activities of the transcendental activities or the spiritual activities of the Lord. So apart from understanding the philosophy, we also get into some. Krishna says that also in the 4th chapter, Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam Yome. So one who tries to understand the activities, transcendental activities, um, he comes back to me. So thus, although the tendency for philosophical speculation exists, the material effects of fruitive activities and empiric speculation do not, because these activities meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are trying to understand Krishna, we are trying to understand the Lord, how to execute it properly. So it also becomes a devotional service rather than a uh, mental speculation or a jnani. Okay, so with that, I will end. It's already 8:02. So I'll open up if there are any discussions. Otherwise, we'll stop here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Nice class. Especially, I like the analogy yesterday. I mean, last couple of verses, right? To that question, Mother Devahuti was asking, how is it possible? Right? The living entity is associated a very long time in this, almost like eternally with the material nature. Is it really possible to get the liberation? I think the analogy was very perfect, right? I mean, the fire and the
Yes.
food.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, devotees. Have a good rest of your day. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.